When we think about nationalism, what comes to mind? Probably things like pride, a sense of identity, community, right? But what if it's none of those things? What if it's actually a psychological disease? So today, we're going to dive into a really provocative argument that frames one of the world's most powerful forces in a completely, and I mean completely, different light.
And boom, there it is. Right out of the gate. No beating around the bush, no complicated academic jargon. Just this really stark, powerful claim. I mean, think about that. It takes this huge political idea and reframes it as, well, a public health crisis. So, you gotta ask, right? Who is saying this, and how did they get there?
Well, this whole idea comes from a 2025 publication by a Dr. Raja King. And just to be super clear, for the next few minutes, our goal isn't to agree or disagree with this, it's just to understand it. We're going to unpack the logic of his argument, piece by piece, to see exactly how someone arrives at such a startling conclusion.
Okay, so let's get into the diagnosis itself. If you're going to call nationalism a disease, then what are the symptoms, right? According to Dr. King, the very first sign isn't something you'd see in a big protest or a government policy. No, it's in the simple words we use to talk about ourselves. I mean, just think about it. How often do we say something like, I am American, or I am Israeli, or I am Palestinian? These feel totally normal, right? Just simple statements of fact. But Dr. King argues they are anything but neutral. He says this is it. Right here. This is where the whole problem starts, in these basic declarations of who we are.
And this next part, this is the crucial leap in his logic. The argument is that when someone says, I am, and then fills in their nationality, it doesn't just exist on its own. He believes it comes with this silent, unspoken, and pretty toxic addition. And because of that, I'm better than you. So it's that claim to superiority, whether you say it out loud or not, that he points to as the core symptom of this so-called disease.
All right, so if that feeling of superiority is the main symptom, how does this thing actually work? How does it spread and keep itself going all over the world? Well, Dr. King has a name for it. He calls it the divide and rule engine. And he says it works by completely changing how we see the world, and more importantly, how we see each other. And this really gets to the heart of the mechanism with a super powerful metaphor. In his view, countries aren't these natural, organic things that have always existed. They're man-made constructs. He calls them boxes. And their whole purpose, he argues, is to divide something that should be whole, which is, the entire human family.
Dr. King breaks this whole process down into a pretty simple three-step formula. First, you take the global human community and you fracture it. Step 2, you sort all those pieces into what he calls boxes called countries. And then what happens? Step 3, this division creates the perfect setup for, and these are his words, greedy and arrogant people to take over. It's basically a classic divide and conquer strategy, just on a massive global scale.
But here's where the argument takes another big turn. Dr. King doesn't just stop with a political or psychological critique. For him, doing something this huge, literally dividing all of humanity, isn't just some social issue. He sees it as a deep moral problem, a spiritual transgression even. And that brings us to his ultimate verdict on the whole system. And wow, there it is, the final verdict, straight from the source. So he's concluding that the consequences of this disease go way beyond wars or social divides. He frames the ultimate accountability in religious terms, saying that on a final judgment day, the Creator Allah will deal with you accordingly. That's a heavy conclusion.
Okay, so let's just do a quick recap and put all the pieces of Dr. King's argument together one last time. It starts with this diagnosis, right? Nationalism as a psychological disease. Its main symptom, that feeling of being better than others because of your nationality. The way it works, a divide and rule system that sorts us all into these boxes. And the final consequence, according to him, isn't something here on earth. It's a matter of spiritual judgment. So, there you have it. We've just walked through a very specific and, let's be honest, a very provocative argument about nationalism. It's a way of thinking that really challenges some of the most basic ideas we might have, and it really leaves us with a big question to chew on. It doesn't matter if you agree with his diagnosis or not, just how does framing nationalism as a disease make us rethink our own ideas about identity, about community, and what it even means to belong? Definitely some food for thought. Thanks for joining me for this one.